The Alaska Triangle, from Juneau to Anchorage up to Utqiagvik, which formerly known as Barrow, they renamed it to the original Inuit. And this is about 180,000 square miles of land that has really strange and abnormal activity.
That's a lot of land.
It really is. Yeah, it's a huge area. Now, we relate it to like the Bermuda Triangle. Some people call it Alaska's Bermuda Triangle. But there are these different areas around the world that have this strange activity, missing airplanes, ships, people go missing, UFOs, paranormal activity. And there's the Dragon Triangle out in Japan. There's Bridgewater in Massachusetts, the Lake Michigan Triangle. So they're really all over the world. Alaska is a really anomalous one and very, very large.
Do you think this is paranormal or natural?
Well, it's an interesting question because I believe in the school of thought that, we use the term supernatural, but it's all actually very natural. It's just something we don't experience as often, which is, why we use the term paranormal. There is certainly paranormal activity that happens in this area, and it may be quite more active up there.
We've got a couple photographs I want you to look at.
Sure.
And tell us what we're seeing here.
This is Flat Top Mountain. A couple of years ago, I was in this area doing some research for another television show, and we were up there with some electromagnetic field meters. We had dowsing rods.
You had it all.
Absolutely. And we did find possibly one of these telluric currents using the dowsing rods, basically pointing from the top of Flat Top Mountain all the way down into the Anchorage area.
It does not look unusual. It doesn't look like any of these strange occurrences could happen on something like this.
It looks very innocent. People go hiking through this area all the time, yet you hear these stories of people just on a hiking trail like this suddenly going missing. Where did they go?
Are there reports of people who go into this area and never come out? David Paulides, for example, writes a lot of things about missing people in our park systems. You might be walking with somebody, you turn around and they're gone. Nobody knows where they are. No scream, nothing. Does that happen out here?
Oh, absolutely. Alaska is one of the more famous locations for this type of activity. 16,000 people have gone missing in Alaska.
16,000?
Since 1988.
Poof, gone.
Yeah, just gone. Just gone. You give the percentage, because Alaska is a very sparsely populated state. It has about the population of San Francisco in an entire state.
Sure.
So 16,000 is a very large percentage of people to go missing, and they do disappear right in front of people. 2012 Mountain Marathon race, Michael LeMaitre, he's a member of the race, mile and a half up the mountain, right in public view, goes missing, never comes back down off the mountain in the middle of a race.
Of these 16,000, Mike, do they ever find any of them dead?
Well, there are some natural causes for some of these. Sure, people go out in the woods and they go missing in the woods. There are kidnappings, things like this. But there are several that are just never seen or heard from again, and nobody knows what happened.
Do they ever come back alive?
Not usually, no. Every once in a while you hear a case of somebody who, they're with a friend, they stepped off the path because they heard a noise or whatever it was. And all of a sudden they find themselves deep in the woods, have no idea how they got there, can't find their way back to the path. And it might be a couple weeks later that they're finally found. And their story is, I have no idea how I got there.
But you don't have anybody who has come back and they say, oh my God, I walked into another dimension. I couldn't get back, but I found a hole and came in. You don't get that?
Well, there is a story of a young boy a few years back that was found by some hunters. They had some snowmobiles and they were out there on their way to a location that they were going to go hunt at. And they saw this boy just standing there amongst these bushes. There's no tracks leading up to this boy. And they take him in because he's cold and he's shivering. And the story that he tells after they bring him in is that he had been taken into the nearby mountain by these small people. And while he was there, he met this young girl who had been there for 40 years but didn't age. So time was very elusive in this area. For whatever reason, they decided to let him go, and he just emerged in this location where the hunters found him.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, what did the father tell the son that I've interviewed that he learned from that pilot about what in the world was there under that kind of security? It is a pyramid made out of stone, thousands of years old. The maker is unknown, and that we know, meaning our government, the US government, has learned that it can give off enough energy to power the nation of Canada. Now, the father tells his wife and the son about this and says, I promised the pilot I would never, ever talk to anybody, so don't talk. That was in 1978. So now we have 59 to 61, a Western Electric Bell with a military background, electrical engineer who is working at the base of a pyramid and tells his son all about it. Then you jump from 5961 to 1978, Unalakleet out to where? Very near Mount McKinley, and this drama and this being thousands of years old. No one knows who made it, but the government knows that it will give off enough energy to power Canada. Jump to 1994, November. 40 men working in the United States Army counterintelligence. The warrant officer, Doug Muchler, watches. It was in-house. It was in Fort Richardson. That's what we are still trying to figure out. Was this something that was not broadcast to the greater Anchorage population? Was this a test for some reason inside of Fort Richardson? And it tells about this huge pyramid underground and how scientists found it with the Chinese 1 megaton test, which is how I came to learn about it.
There is so much going on this planet, Mike. I mean, my gosh, even that example alone. Where's this happening?
It's happening all over. You know, these are things that are with us, and it's just a matter of paying attention and in observing. You know, people tend to go about their daily lives. We have a lot of things going on. We're very, very busy people. If we stop and listen and watch and observe, we'll find a lot of these things happening around us everywhere.
In the South Pole, there's a supposed pyramid down there. Let's look at this.
Yeah,
that's weird, isn't it?
It is. It looks like an aerial photo of the Great Pyramid of Giza with snow all around it, but this is in the Ellsworth Range. Now, the mainstream will tell you that this is just a geological feature, it's just a mountain, but that sure looks like a pyramid to me. Unfortunately, there's not really a way to get out to it. It's very, very remote, and this is just a satellite photo. But we're seeing here connections all over the world. Here's a pyramidal structure in Antarctica, which we know is very ancient. It's not always been where it was. When they've drilled down to the ice, they found jungle there.
Could that be a natural formation?
There is a possibility that it could be. We can't rule that out. But I think we would want some verification of that. Can we send a team out there to go verify whether that is a natural feature?
It looks pretty desolate, doesn't it, Mike?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you even get to it?
Right now, you don't.
How high up is that?
I mean, it's several thousand feet.
That's
off
huge.
the top of my head, I do not recall. But it's huge. Everything in Antarctica seems to be
The
bigger.
St. Louis Arch, you've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, I've been in the
It's
Arch.
600 feet tall. So this thing is at least 2 or 3 times taller than the Arch.
At least, yeah.
That's amazing.